Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. I know it's not Halloween. Alright, that's long past. But when it came to my Halloween videos, I ran out of time and I couldn't upload everything I wanted to. So that's why I'm uploading them past Halloween. But if you stop and look at it like this, at some point in time, it's gonna be Halloween time again, October. So somebody eventually will stumble upon my videos and watch it around Halloween time. So yeah, and I'm here today to talk to you about The Messengers. This movie came out in 2007 and it was produced by Sam Raimi and Robert Tappert, and it was directed by the Payne. Well, actually, I don't know if it was directed by the Payne brothers because I just saw one, Oxide Payne. And they are a Hong Kong director duo brothers. They're twins. And they've made several movies and horror movies like The Eye, the Asian version of The Eye. The American version of The Eye is not very good. I like Jessica Alba and stuff, but you know, she's hit and miss at times when it comes to movies and crap. And so also Chloe Grace Moretz is in that movie, and she does an amazing job for what little she's given. So The Messengers, when I reviewed Pet Sematary, the 2019 movie, I said that this movie was pretty good and that its prequel movie sucked. I still kind of stand by that. See, here's the thing. This is an okay, pretty good movie, but it's almost perfect. But it's not perfect. It's confusing and stuff like that. I get what they was trying to do with this movie, but ultimately, it doesn't really hit the way it should, because there are some confusing elements in this movie that weigh the movie down and just kind of make it suck. But I still feel like it's a pretty good, passable movie to watch, and it's pretty cool to watch for the Halloween month and everything. It's not entirely terrible, that's the thing. And it's not entirely bad. It's just confusing and should have been reworked before the final product and stuff. I really wish they just would have reworked this thing before it hit theaters, because it could have been a perfect horror psychological thriller of a movie. Now, this movie actually went through rewrites, and you can tell it went through rewrites and stuff like that. There's also an alternate ending. What that alternate ending is, I have no idea. I've never seen it. But you can tell this movie had rewrites and stuff, because they're in the rewrites are the elements that just don't make full sense. And, after a while of making the movie and doing rewrites and this and that in the studios, all that blah, 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 blah. After a while, you just cave and just whatever, just put it out. Now, the original script for this is actually in the prequel movie, The Messengers 2. And well, Messengers 2 was just boring and just you can tell it's direct to DVD. And it is. And stuff. Now, this movie stars a lot of famous people. This movie stars that of Kristen Stewart, who, let's just put her here right now, she can't act. I'm sorry, she just can't. She's a plank of wood, she is in everything she is. I've often wondered, how in the world does she get cast in all these big time movies, and then when you find out what she did on Snow White and the Huntsman, you kind of find out how she gets put in these movies. But her acting's all right, just okay. It's not terrible, but there are moments where it's just can't you emote? Can't you do something with your eyes instead of doing whatever the world you're doing? Oi, she cannot act. Like, I'm sorry, she just can't. John Colbert, he stars as John in this movie. Oh, by the way, Kristen Stewart stars as like Jess. Dylan McDermott, he plays Roy. He plays the father. Penelope, is it Ann Harper? I think her name is. She plays the mother. What is her name? I forget. Anyway, and there's really no point in going into the twins that play the little boys, but there's another family in this movie, and Tatiana Maslany, she plays the daughter in the flashbacks. And what's her name? Jolie Ferlin. She plays she plays a little boy in this. I don't know why they just didn't cast a real boy, but they chopped her hair off and made her play a boy. And stuff. I have no idea why. So it stars some pretty famous people and stuff. And so basically, there's so much good elements in this movie that this should have been perfect, man. Because it starts off in a very, very scary scene. It's all black and white. There's a family. There's a mother and son. They're packing their stuff. Their daughter and something or somebody is chasing them around the house, throwing stuff around, killing their behind. It is freaky scary, and it really sets the mood. It gets you hooked into the movie. And I mean, this is like, that's the best scene in the entire movie. Like, it's the best scene. There's another scene here that's really good too, but this scene is just like awesome, like just like balls off the walls, just like amazing and stuff. And you think, wow, this is gonna be a really scary movie and everything, right? And it kind of is. And so you don't know what the heck is grabbing them, chasing them, tossing them around, killing them. You kind of think, like, I don't see nobody. It must be a ghost or something like that. Or is it a person and they're just off screen? Nobody knows. And so that happened years ago. And then we're in the present day. Now, they lived in a farmhouse and a new family moves in. And the new family is Kristen Stewart's family. Basically, the movie sets it up to where something happened 2 years ago. But this is a little confusing. They keep saying 2 years ago. But then when she tells the story, she said it was 6 months ago. Basically, we find out late on in the movie what happened, because like something happened years ago that the mother doesn't trust the daughter, and it affected their little son. The little son has select mutism. He does not want to speak. He can, he just don't want to. And so something traumatized him. And the mother never wants the daughter to ever drive the car. Every time she wants to drive the car, the mother says, no, let's not forget what happened last time. And even when the father gets hurt and they need somebody to watch the kid, they make the daughter watch the kid because they don't want her driving. Well, we find out towards the end of the movie what happened either months or years ago. Basically, the daughter, Jess, she went partying with some friends. She went drinking. And so she had to pick up her dad from like the airport or something like that. The family was in the car, like the little boy, and she got into a car wreck. Because of that, they won't let her drive. So they keep like hammering her about that and stuff like that. And they don't trust her. But then it turns out that afterwards, things were so bad that the dad lost his job. He struggled to find work. And so they had to move from Chicago all the way to North Dakota in a farmhouse. And like the dad was able to find a job, like, you know, at this farm it was like a sunflower like farm. Now, that part in the movie is confusing and should have been worked a little bit better, because it's kind of like, okay, I get it. She screwed up medical bills and this and that piled up. But how exactly did the father lose the job, and why did they have to move from Chicago, the big city, into out in the country in a farm? And why did he get a how did he get a job? Do with the whole sunflower thing and harvest and being a farmer, and it's just kind of odd, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just kind of weird. Even R.L. Stein can write better than that. Like when, what was it, the Fever Swamp thing? They moved to Fever Swamp because, like, the dad does research on, like, deers and stuff like that. And they need to see how deers can survive out in the swamp. And then, and what is it, the zombie house thing where, like, the father, they found this cheap house and he just wants to write a book where he can be all isolated and, like, and they couldn't afford to get a good house, so they got this really dirt cheap house, and so he can live out his dream. That's a whole lot better than whatever the heck this is. And with no farming skills, somehow he's able to farm, like, sunflower seeds. But, there's a problem. The sunflowers don't really want to grow. And he's having a hard time. Not only that, but there are tons of crows that keep eating all his stuff and getting in his house. And so, like, but they're not really crows in the movie, they're ravens. So I don't know why they keep calling them crows, but I guess they say the reason why is because they couldn't train crows, but they could train ravens. And so, like, we start to notice the crows are acting very odd. They're constantly around the house. When they fly in a weird demonic like pattern. And they get to the point where they start just attacking people in the house. Why do they start attacking people in the house? It's never explained. That was in the original script and everything. So they tried to keep that in the movie with no real explanation. So it's kind of like, okay, we have like demonic crows or something like, or possessed crows. Now, this movie, you can tell, tried to be a little bit of like The Ring. This is back in, because this was made around the time all those like Asian ghost stories were made, and you get the feel of that in here. And so, like, while in the home, you start to notice some bizarre things going on, some paranormal type things. When the mom is like making the bed, she throws the sheet up in the air to put on the bed, and there's like some type of demonic ghost person standing on the bed, and you just see like the feet and the legs. That's like from the trailer, and it's really spooky. It's like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Then there's like a weird like water something, like, how when water stains like a wall and it's corrosion and stuff like that, it's on the wall, the mom is cleaning it off. And so the crows are acting weird, and the daughter feel like she's being spied on, and it's this really creepy, eerie setting, right? Well, when the crows start acting a little crazy and they start trying to attack the father and everything, all of a sudden, a man comes out of nowhere with a book bag, or like kind of like a camping bag, and he has a shotgun, and he's all like, "This is the only way to scare the crows." And so then you're just kind of like, hold up. So this man's just wandering around town with like a sleeping bag, and he just happens to have a rifle in his hand. That should be a big red flag, but it's not, and the father befriends him. And he's all like, man's all like, "Oh, I'm just traveling to town looking for work." And the man's all like, "Hey man, if you want to work on, like, well, he talking about you needing to work on the farm." He's all like, "Well, yeah, but I can't pay you until after the harvest, but you can sleep in the barn." So, okay, a complete stranger who's big and buff with a shotgun in his hand, it's all like, is now gonna work at the farm and live on the farm. And the father just thinks it's a-okay. I know he's from Chicago, but you should be more smart than this. But he acts like a really nice, cheerful type dude, you know what I'm saying? And I mentioned this in a video like years ago where I saw the coolest gun trick. He takes the rifle, he turns on the side, he cocks it, and like the cartridge just shoots out the gun, and then he catches it mid-air. I've never seen anything cooler than that. Other than Resident Evil with Rain when she did that in the first Resident Evil movie. And so, like, with just feeling isolated and not wanting to be in the house and has no friends and not allowed to drive into town, she has to ride a bike and everything. Like, she's just kind of miserable. But then freaky stuff starts happening around the house. When the father gets hurt and she has to, like, well, and the father and the mother, they go to, like, in town to the hospital, Jess has to babysit her little brother. And there the freaky stuff starts happening. The second best part of the entire movie. The house is like literally possessed, and it torments the crap out of Jess. There is stuff flying all around the house: chairs, sofas, cabinets, dresser drawers, anything you can think of, and it's all practical. That's the great thing about it. They use practicality in this. They use wire work to make things move around the house, and it's freaky. The house is literally trying to kill her and everything, and her little brother. Then she starts seeing like ghost people, but in a demonic kind of way, and they're creepy and they're scary, and they're doing that weird running around type nah, that's not pixelated, but it's like jagged type way they walk and everything, and it's freaking her out. And it's like, yeah, man, this is getting good. Like, what's going on? Like, forget all the stupid stuff about why they moved to the farm. Like, yeah, man, yeah. And so you're getting like really happy and excited. And she's calling the cops and she's terrified. But it kind of sucks because her acting's not that good. And then at one point in time, like she's and it's just freaking her out. And then so when she calls the cops, John's busting on the windows like, what's going on? What's going on? And so she gets like the boy out and she gets out and then he can't see nothing. So the parents are pissed because they're all like, yo, why'd you make a prank phone call to like the cops? Because the house, after it got destroyed, within a second, it's like back to normal. So she's all like, look, man, we can't stay here. There's something wrong with this house. Let's head back to Chicago. And you start to see the father act temperamental towards her, talking about like, let's not forget why we came out here to begin with, because it's all your fault and blah, blah, blah. And why are you acting like this? How are we supposed to trust you? Blah, blah, blah. And the mother's kind of acting a little bit like that, but not as mean as the father. And so when she's in town, she asks this local boy, is there anything freaky going on with her house? And he's all like, no, but people used to say, oh, it's haunted or something like that, but nobody could never prove it. So she knows there's something wrong with the home, but nobody wants to believe her, right? And so by now, like sunflowers are growing, they're almost right, so the dad's gonna make a profit. However, the dad would have made a profit to begin with. There's another stupid scene that's never really truly explained. So early in the movie, a man comes to him, is all like, look, man, we want to buy your farm and we'll give you tons of money and more compensation and stuff like that. For whatever stupid reason, the father turns it down. And so then he later confesses to his wife, because when the daughter starts to have that nervous breakdown, they're like, maybe we shouldn't live here, blah, 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 blah. And then so he's all like, well, I was offered all the money we lost 2 years ago, plus about 115% more what we will get in an advance. So she's furious. She's like, you fool, why didn't you take that offer and stuff? But for whatever reason, this fool just wants to work in the farm and play around with sunflowers. Why is never truly ever explained. And so, like, at some point in time, the house goes freaky again, and when she's in the cellar, and so it's all these demonic ghosts are grabbing her, throwing her back into like this mud, and and it's like a scene where like the little brother can see it too, and she's trying to get the brother out, and there's all these hands grabbing her, trying to like drag her into like the darkness. It's really scary and stuff. Like, I love it. Then we get to around the third act of the movie, where things get a little bit cooler, but also more confusing. And it's that confusion that just kind of ruins the movie and stuff. So basically, um the mom is like, trying to, she's doing something. And remember when I said that water compensation was on the wall and she cleaned it off? Well, it starts to grow back. It grows back so big that a human body starts to come from the wall in a very freaky, scary kind of way. Now, the mom knows the house is possessed. And so, like, this is kind of like the Ring. Instead of the little ghost girl coming out the TV, this ghost person's coming out the wall. So the ghosts are like freaking everybody out and all this other crap while the mom and the son is there. So they take refuge and stuff. And while outside, like John is outside and the crows like attack him. They attack him so bad he's face down in the ground and he's bleeding. And when he wakes up, he starts to freak out. Then he starts to have flashbacks. Now, one cool thing about the horror sequences is that when they're going on, you see flashbacks what happened to that family in the beginning of the movie. He starts to have flashbacks. And then the big reveal happened, the twist. A very bizarre twist. See, and Jess is back in town talking to that local boy again. She asked more about the family that used to live there. He told her there was a family that used to live there and they died. And so she's looking on the bulletin board because, see, she found the pocket watch and one day it just popped open on its own because she kept trying to open it. It wouldn't open, but then it popped on its own and there's a woman's picture in there. She recognized that woman's picture, so she heads back into town, sneaks out the house. The father tries looking for her, so he leaves the house thinking she ran away. And then so when she's at the bulletin board, she sees a picture of the family. And she pulls it back and she sees the father of the family. It's John. That is the big twist. He was the person in the beginning of the movie who murdered his family in a very brutal way. But why? It's never explained. He's just cuckoo in the head. So she puts two and two together and she realizes if John is the father and the family died, then he must have killed them. But it could have been just somebody else that killed them and he could have just been the father. However, there is the explanation of why he was on the farm to begin with, wandering around town and stuff like that. So she put those two together to realize he's the murderer. Her and the local boy, they zoom back into like where the house is at, and they go looking for her family. John at this point has gone buck wild with a pitchfork and just started stabbing through the walls, trying to kill everybody and stuff. It's really scary, it's really horrifying, but you gotta ask the logical question. How come nobody in that town went looking for John when the family went murdered and stuff? Now, nobody knew he was at the farmhouse because nobody never went to the farmhouse while he was there. And the family had no idea. But, like, I think the town never knew the father killed like them, but they should have known something. I don't know. Anyway, it's just kind of odd, you know what I'm saying? That he would just be wandering around, living in the farm, in the barn house this whole time, and it's just weird, whatever. Anyway, he's trying to kill them. He knocks out the lover boy and everything. The mom and the son are down in the cellar, and Jess is running through the house playing hero and everything. And so when she gets down in the cellar, he comes down there eventually, and so does her father. The father finally made it back. The father gets stabbed through the chest with the pitchfork. So you think he's dead, right? Right. He stabbed through the chest with a pitchfork. Anyway. And so, like, or maybe he stabbed through the back near the gut area. But anyways, he's down for the count. And so Jessica is left struggling with the madman John. And so, like, in his mind, he sees Jess and her family as his, and she's all like, we're not your family. And then she kicks him and she starts to see demonic ghost hands coming from the ground in the mud, trying to where they tried to pull her down in. So then all of a sudden his ghost family, demonic ones, are grabbing him, pulling him down in the mud. We see flashbacks and the family gets revenge on like John for killing them. Then time passes and like the father is alive somehow after getting stabbed. The family's now happy living on the farm. The harvest have came in. The sunflowers are doing what they're supposed to do. And the little boy starts to talk again. The end. And all I could think of was, what? So not only did they stay in the demonic farmhouse, which why? Why did they stay there? That don't make no sense. The thing is literally possessed. But another thing that don't make no sense is that, like, okay, if the ghost family has been trying this entire time to warn them of what John did and, bring an ends to their murder, why did they kept trying to torture and kill that of Jess? Like, they literally scared the piss out of her and tried to drag her down into like the muddy like afterlife and everything. And so I don't understand that. If they're supposed to be good and there was a family that was murdered, why in the world are they trying to harm her and like the mom and stuff like that? Like, why? Like, I don't get that. You know what I'm saying? And why the entire time John's been in that house, why didn't they just kill him? He's been in and out that house plenty of times. They could have killed his behind. He's been in the farmhouse. They could have killed his behind. I don't get that. Also, what is the deal with like the crows? That's never been explained. Like, never, ever, ever, ever. So why were they possessed and demonic and acting stupid and stuff? Now, there is some explanation in the prequel movie that came out direct to DVD. It's the original script of the original movie. Oh, by the way, you can find this on Roku TV app. And so, okay. It's never been explained why John went cuckoo in the head and tried to murder his family. But we see when he's trying to murder the new family, there are flashbacks, and there's a man that came to him wanting to buy his farm. This is further elaborated in the prequel movie. Now, the prequel movie that's direct to DVD is titled The Messengers to the Scarecrows. And so, like, there was no scarecrows in the first movie, but there was supposed to be. And so the prequel movie is completely recast. Norman Reedus plays John now. And if they're gonna recast his family, at least recast them to the appropriate race and hair color. Because like John's family had like brown hair. Now all of a sudden his family has blonde hair. Not only that, but they cast people of color to play his two kids in the first movie. But then in the second movie, they're just all white. It's just kind of like, so when I watched the prequel movie back in October, which I could not finish, by the way, I couldn't do it. I got to the third act. I'm like, I'm done. I fell asleep. I'm like, whatever. I woke up and I tried to finish the rest. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done watching this movie. It was so stupid and boring. Because with the first one, see, the movie's supposed to be a psychological thriller, but they added supernatural elements into the first movie. So that always stuck in my head when I saw it many years ago. So when watching the second movie, I assumed, okay, it's going to be like that too, right? Nah, it's more just a weird psychological thing. So basically, John inherited a farm from like his father. And so like he's trying his best to get the crops to grow and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, they just won't grow. And so, he's been giving like offers to like buy the farm. He won't take it. He's happy with his family, but his neighbors is all like, he's starting to have a crow problem. So he's like, his neighbors all like, get a scarecrow. It'll like, make things like, make all the crows go away. So he does. Now, throughout the movie, you start to see the scarecrows are alive. And it's just kind of like, that's weird. And so throughout the movie, John is having a lot of stress. They're trying to make him the good guy in the prequel movie, which we know he's the psychotic killer in the original movie. So I hate when they do that crap. Basically, they're retconning the events that happened in the first movie. So we have scarecrows that are alive, demonic. We have a good John who's just trying to make ends meet and trying to like, be a good farmer. And so then some guy ends up missing. I think it's like, I don't know, it's like the guy that like tried to buy the farm from him. He ends up missing and dies off screen when the scarecrow attacks him. And like, they think John did it. So the sheriff in town thinks John did it. He kind of likes John's wife a little bit. John can see that, there's a little flirtation there. John, by the middle part of the movie, has gone nuts in the head. Something is possessing his mind. He's starting to see hallucinations and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, his neighbor's wife, who's really young, but with the old man, comes on to him and tries to like do him and all kind of other weird stuff, right? So then somewhere in the climactic part of the movie, I think the scarecrows, from what I can remember, are trying to kill the family now. And they killed the sheriff. And so like everybody's assuming John's doing it, his wife assuming that, John's crazy and trying to kill them, because the sheriff's all like, well, it must be John. Who else could it be? He had beef with that man and now the man's dead and blah, blah, blah. So the family's running scared from like John. But it turns out it's the scarecrows and everything. And so at the end of the movie, they all fight the scarecrows off and yay, all this other crap. But I didn't get to the end in the movie. Maybe I should have. But anyways, apparently what happened is this. There's a demonic presence on the farm. And so it's there by a curse. His neighbors were already dead and they're ghosts. And there's some kind of curse they enacted on the house or some crap like that. Some kind of voodoo ritual or something. And so like they caused John to kind of go nutty in the head and stuff like that. The demonic presence that's around the house. And so that's basically it. That's why John went nuts. And I think it shows that, they're being chased by the scarecrow, but I think in actuality, it really was John. But John is like possessed of some crap like that. And it's just a really god-awful prequel of a movie. And it's just terrible. Now, I wish they would have kept some of those elements in the first movie, because it would have explained things a little bit more. It would have explained why when you die in that house, you turn demonic ghost-like and you're trying to harm other people. It would have explained, like, the crows and everything and all this other crap. It would have explained why John did what he did, because he was literally going nuts in the head because of demonic presence. I wish they would have kept those elements in the first movie, but they had to try to, I guess, because of budgetary reasons and time restraints, they couldn't do it. But it would have really helped the first movie out if they just would have explained those little things. Or maybe just explain it. You didn't even have to explain with the whole scarecrow thing. You could just explain that John's just nuts. And he was just a very violent man to begin with. It would have been nice to see that. And so, yeah. I still think the first movie is worth checking out, because it does have some cool horror elements in it. But it's a confusing story. The second movie is just stupid. And there's no point in watching it. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.